everyone, and welcome back to Tutorials of Tone. My name is Alex. Thank you so much for joining me. What we're dealing with today is Mr. Brightside by The Killers. This has become quite the staple of any dance, wedding, or club date that you're going to be playing. And over the last few years, it's seen quite the resurgence. Interesting. Not sure why. But you're going to be playing this oftentimes at the end of a night. And if you don't have the ability to switch guitars, switch tunings quickly, this preset is really great to have with the pitch block engaged. We're using a virtual capo, and as you heard in the intro, there's some latency things. There are some artifacts of the processing, especially with the FM3. At the end of the video, we're going to go into the Axe FX3 and the FM3 and compare those two. But in a mix, is anybody really going to notice that? Or are they just going to be screaming for their favorite song and dancing and being all hopped up? It is what it is, but it's a really good thing to have on a moment's notice. So let's dive right into this preset. First up, we have our input block. Everything is at stock settings except the threshold of my gate is always set to negative 47.5 dB for my Morse Music Man guitars. Next up, we have the pitch block. We are using the virtual capo function. We are shifted down 1/2 step, so -1. We have our detector source set to input 1, and I'm always trying to do that unless I need a very special effect of running pedals into the pitch block in a very specific way. That way it's reading the input of what you're playing from your hands and not all the blocks that precede it with the processing. I set the pitch tracking to smooth. This really helps to level things out when you're playing chords, as opposed to setting it to fast, which will help with all of the single note things. Now, setting the tracking all the way up may add some latency for you, but it might help clean up some of those artifacts. We've got our input gain and our mix set to 100%. This is crucial because we don't want, if our mix is set anything else, any of that dry signal coming in. And if our input gain isn't at 100%, we'll have a little bit of that and a level dip. So really good to have. Our low cut is set to 40 Hertz. Anytime we're going down in pitch, it's nice to increase that low cut gauge and dial because you're going to be getting rid of those low frequency artifacts. Then we've got a high cut of 10K for added measure. I have the scene ignore function on. Every now and then someone's going to call this in D instead of the record key of D flat. So it's really nice to have the option to turn the pitch block off. If you are switching scenes and you want to add in that crunch or that little extra boost, you don't have to worry about the key changing on you. Next up, we have our tube screamer. This is really just in case we need a little extra bump of distortion when we're playing through this and maybe the energy of the band is a little bit more rock or hard rock heavy. So we heard in the intro the standard tone. And with the crunch. A nice little bump that can match the level of the band that you're playing with. We're playing through a high power jumped model, so the Hiwatt amp for authenticity. It's really nice to have. Nothing happening in the input EQ, but we do have our cut and bright switch engaged. This is kind of a dark sounding amp by nature. We have our input boost on, and we are at a neutral boost type at stock settings. For authenticity, having a Hiwatt cab 4x12 for this thing, just a 10K high cut on that. Normally I would be running this through the Mesa Boogie cab set that I have with a recto with an SM7 and a traditional with a 121. I do that to have a homogeneous live sound so we can keep the sound man happy and not, bumping faders every song by switching IRs constantly. That is in channel B if you are so inclined, but everything you've heard up to this point has been the Hiwatt. I've got a medium room reverb just for a little extra squish, a little bit of breath in the tone, and then a digital stereo delay set to a quarter note, and our BPM is at 148. Now if you notice, our input gain is set to an expression pedal, a little bit of a delay throw, so we can bring it in as we need. Dry, wet. And it's a really cool thing to bring in, especially when you have those chorus leads or the guitar breakdown. Just helps really fatten up that sound a bit for you. And then we go to our output block. The scene levels are adjusted slightly. When we bring in that tube screamer, that drive block, we take down the scene level 1 dB to keep everything nice and leveled. Well, that about does it for this preset. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, you can check out more videos such as the Tutorials of Tone playlist, gear reviews, lessons, playthroughs, etc. I'm going to play you all out with the difference between the FM3 artifacts and the AXIFX3 artifacts, latency, and maybe you can hear a difference and make a decision about which rig you're going to use on any given night. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.